New CFP rankings, the Big Ten championship game, and Beyonce Knowles? All that and more coming up next on Dotting the I with Davis and Chad. What's up, Buckeye Nation, and welcome back to Dotting the I with Davis and Chad. This is episode 14. Wow, what a week this week, man. We got a ton of stuff to talk about. We got recruiting stuff going on. We got Big Ten championship stuff going on. We got the CFP going on. We got everything going on, and I'm pumped about it. How you feeling, Davis?
I'm actually finally excited again to watch some football because, I mean, if you think about it, like we had a couple games at the beginning of the year, then we were off a game, then we were on a game, then we were off a game, and then we're off another game. And, I mean, the last time we saw a football game was against Michigan State, and the time before that was over a month ago. So we've literally watched them play one time in the last 4 weeks. So I'm just excited to see them finally get back on the field and do something.
Me too, man. And the talk around town is that there's just a newfound hope, a newfound swagger going on over at Ohio State right now. And I think that's going to play big for us this weekend. I really think that we're going to see a different Buckeye team, a different enthusiasm from a Buckeye team than we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they've even made it readily aware that they need to win this game big. Now, do I think they need to? No. I think, a win is going to be enough, but they're all under the assumption that they're going to have to completely blow this team out. And I think that, I'm not necessarily say we're going to a wide open playbook, but you're going to see a lot more aggressive team than we've probably seen all year long because they realize that, win and probably in and win big. And I think that's going to pretty much, wrap it up. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see them play.
Well, it's funny you said that. That kind of leads us into our first thing we want to talk about, which is the release of the CFP rankings here yesterday. And, there's a lot of people out there, and we're going to go through the rankings here in a second, but there's a lot of people out there who think it's a distinct possibility if we don't win big that Texas A&M could possibly jump us. How do you feel about that?
No, well, first of all, there was no change in the top five. And I think maybe the bigger story was Florida having a bad loss and only dropping one spot, which is kind of laughable because then people are thinking, oh, well, if they're just at 7, then now they clearly still have a path to get in if they beat Alabama. So far, there's never been a 2-loss team that's made it in, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, with the small exception of maybe Clemson. But I think Clemson loses. I don't think they're in either. My take is I think that Texas A&M has no shot unless Ohio State loses. None. Unless I think their only other shot would be if Clemson loses and kind of loses handily, then I think they're in. But they have no path through Ohio State as long as Ohio State wins the game. We could win by 1, and Ohio State is still going to be in because they've had plenty of opportunities to put Texas A&M ahead of Ohio State, and they haven't done it. And Texas A&M isn't playing any more games. So I don't care how bad Ohio State even struggles in the game. As long as they win the game, Texas A&M is not going to overtake them.
Well, I wanted to say this before we get too deep in. For those of you that don't know or didn't watch, when the CFP came out, it went Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Clemson 3, Ohio State 4, Texas A&M 5, Iowa State moved up to 6 at 8-2, Florida dropped down to number 7 at 8-2, Georgia at number 8. 7-2, and the reason I'm going down this far is because I want to get to this next one. Cincinnati, undefeated 8-0 at number 9. I just kind of wanted to touch on that a minute because I thought it was really interesting what the committee did with Cincinnati. Talk about a lack of respect for a team to have a 2-loss Georgia, a 2-loss Florida, and a 2-loss Iowa State, who I got to be honest, man, they don't toot my horn very much. I really don't think Iowa State's as good as everybody thinks they are. But they got all 3 of those ranked above Cincinnati, who's 8-0 and looked great in every showing they've had so far this year. I know they haven't played in the last couple of weeks, but they still look a lot better than 2-loss Iowa State, in my opinion.
Well, the committee kind of, I guess, kind of showed one thing and then did another. Like, they're not really penalizing Ohio State for missing games, but they're turning around and penalizing Cincinnati for missing games because they missed 2 weeks ago and dropped a spot, and then they missed last week and dropped another spot. And then I'm looking at the teams that are ahead of them. I mean, obviously Iowa State at number 6, but they have a bad loss against Louisiana at the beginning of the year. And that's a group of 5 team that was ranked for a little bit, but I mean they're not a great team. Like that would still be kind of a bad loss. And then you have Florida, which lost to a 3-5 LSU team that got completely waxed by Alabama. So that's a bad loss.
I've said
Georgia,
it from the beginning.
Georgia is the
Florida. Florida's not a good football team. I've said that from the beginning.
Well,
they're
I think they're good,
slightly above average team.
I think they're a good football team, but I think that's kind of what Florida has been ever since Urban Meyer's left. Is they've been like a 9-3, 10-2 kind of team. But they're also not winning, the SEC championship, and they're just, they're a top 20 team, maybe top 15, but they're not a top 10 or definitely not a top 5 in my opinion either, because they just, I don't know, they don't do it for me, like of course, Kyle Trask was putting up a ton of numbers, and they said, oh, well, he's going at a higher rate than Joe Burrow was last season, blah, blah, blah. You're taking off a small sample size, and then now that you're starting to add more games, you're starting to see it kind of, level out. Like the law of averages are starting to show that they're just not, they're not a playoff team. I mean, that's ultimately what we're trying to say here is they're not a playoff team. Even if they were to beat Alabama, which is not going to happen, but they're not a playoff team. And
see, I would take it even farther. Not only are they not a playoff team, I don't think I don't see them as really a top 10 team. I don't. I don't see them. I look at a lot of these matchups in here that I'm looking at in the top 10 right now, and honestly, I don't know how many they'd be favored in or how many they'd really win. Yeah. I mean, they're just an average football team in my opinion. I would take. I'll be honest, man. I believe this year in Cincinnati. I really do. Do I think they're going to go out there and beat a top 4 team, top 5 team? No. But do I think that they would compete with Texas A&M, Florida? And I think that they would hand Iowa State their what.
I agree with that.
That's just my honest opinion.
I agree. And maybe it's a little bit of homerism because, Cincinnati's kind of like, the little stepbrother, but still, we support the teams in Ohio, and as long as they're not playing us or it doesn't affect us, we think highly of Cincinnati and we think highly of Luke Fickell, and they've done a great job this year, and even though they play in the group of 5, they've played some really good matchups. It'd be different if these teams in front of them that have 1 and 2 losses, if those losses were like legit, but you have bad losses in front of them, like bad, and yet they have multiple losses and still in front of them. That's what I can't wrap my head around, and, I understand to the committee, the big thing with Ohio State is that they pass the eye test. They pass the eye test big time because they're willing to overlook the missed games. There's something with Cincinnati where they're not as much passing the eye test for them, which is why they're being penalized for missing those games. I don't agree with it. But unfortunately, I think that's just kind of the way the committee is viewing this thing. What do you think?
It is. I just thought that they made a really good stance. To me, so here has always been my beef with the CFP. It has always been my beef is that when they make these moves, they make statements. Okay, so now what you're telling me is if you're a team like a Cincinnati, if you're a team like a Houston, like a UCF or a South Florida or somebody like that comes in here, even if you wax everybody and you're 8-0, you're still not going to be considered. You're not going to be considered, even over teams that have lost 2 games. So how can you as a kid that's making a decision on going to a college, and you know what, maybe you're good enough to maybe see some playing time, but maybe you're not going to be a starter at a big-time Power 5 conference school, but you're going to start at Cincinnati. Why the heck would you ever go there if you want to play for a title? Why would you ever? Because you don't even have a chance.
Which that leads me into there's two ways that the group of 5s need to go from here. Like either the playoff needs to go to 8 and have all 5 conference champs in, 1 group of 5 and 2 at large to give, your New Year's Day team that from the past, that typically gets that New Year's Day bowl, get them a spot in the playoff. And I mean, it would be a blast to watch that, but I don't see that happening, at least for a while. So then the group of 5 needs to kind of create their own, maybe, their own 4-team playoff or something like that, because that would be something that I would still watch, and it would give them some legitimacy. to feel a lot more free to schedule outside of their conference, but it wouldn't kill their chances for their own playoff. So that the little guy can still schedule the big guy and, get a little bit of a payday in that. But they can also, still have hope for, because at this point, a group of 5 team has to play a perfect season, and then they have to have a lot of help, and even still, that's probably not going to be enough. And I mean, it's razor thin on any chance to get in. That it's just almost apparent now that they're never going to get, the recognition to get in. And I would like to see some of those teams in there. I think in a given year, especially in a one game, anything can happen in a one game. And I think it would be exciting to watch. I mean, I would definitely be interested in that kind of being the format. But I think they just kind of need to create their own thing if we don't go to an 18 playoff.
They got to do something. I think it's just not fair, to be totally honest with you. And you know what? Maybe, like you said, 9 times out of 10, these kids are not, they're not going to be as good. They're not going to have the talent level of an Alabama and Ohio State, Clemson. But at the same point in time, you never know, man. I mean, how many times did we watch Gonzaga, in the NCAA tournament go deep, and everybody's like, who the hell's Gonzaga? You know what I mean?
But Gonzaga kind of got built from almost nothing, and now they're a powerhouse, and they didn't even, I think they switched conferences in basketball, but they're still not in a Power 5. Right. But basketball, but basketball's different because the little guy gets included in that. So that's kind of irrelevant because basketball is completely different. Like anyone,
it is, but it isn't.
D1 can get in.
My point is that if they got a chance to get in, they might ruin some people's day. That's my point. That's why I compared it to the basketball tournament.
Okay, I get that, and that's what I want to see. I mean, that's why for me, besides college football, the next best thing to watch is March Madness. It's not a better thing sports related for me, at least for my interest and what excites me. Besides college football and the playoff and all that, it would definitely be March Madness, and it's because the little guys get in there, and because you get to see these Cinderella runs. Like that would be great to see that for college football, but they're never going to get a chance.
I know, sad but true.
Well, I have one more pet peeve about the CFP, and I've got to bring it up because it bothers me.
I have 10 more. Well, go on.
Listen, okay, I will acknowledge that the College Football Playoff Committee most of the time has been favorable towards Ohio State. There was one year that we won the Big Ten with 2 losses, and Alabama got in over us with 1 loss and didn't even make it to the SEC championship game. But we also kind of got the same thing that helped us out when Penn State won the Big Ten and they beat us, but we only had 1 loss, which was to them, and they had 2 losses and we went over them. So I'm not as big on that. My problem is this SEC view with the CFP, that you're constantly having 3 to 4 teams in the top 10 or more, at least 2 in the top 4 the majority of the time. And it seems like when you lose to another SEC team, every SEC team you lose to is considered a good loss. You're not really penalized, but if Ohio State were to lose to another Big Ten team, it was considered a bad loss.
If Ohio State had 2 losses, we wouldn't even be in the top 10.
No, not at all. And you have 3 SEC teams in the top 10 with 2 losses?
And I got to be honest,
2 or 3?
Texas A&M is a question mark for me. They're a question mark. Could they be good? Yes. Do I think they're that good? No. Florida is definitely not that good. Alabama's Alabama. They're always good. I understand that. But I'm just saying they carry way too much weight, and I don't understand why. Texas A&M right now, first of all, I don't even want to talk about they're talking about people talking about Texas A&M jumping Ohio State. Ohio State would absolutely destroy Texas A&M. It wouldn't even be a game. We would have second string in by the third quarter.
I'd say the line on that game would be probably about 9 or 10, and personally, I don't think it would be that close.
No way. No way. People have lost their mind in SEC country. I don't understand what it is. Is Alabama a great football team? Yes. Do I want to play them? No, I do not. Not every single turd you uncover turns to gold. Okay, it's not that easy.
I've never found one that's turned to gold, to be honest with you.
Well, keep digging, buddy.
Not ideal. Well, going back to the first point you made about how I think we're really going to start seeing some from Ohio State. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Ohio State this year because they're not seeing a bunch of games, because they haven't had that big matchup, because they haven't really put everything all together yet. So I think everyone's just kind of looking at this right now like Alabama is just light years ahead of everyone and they're going to destroy everyone. And that may come to fruition and be true, but I just have this feeling like Ryan Day knows what kind of team he had. Like, even going to the season, he said this is a once in a generation kind of team he felt like he had. And even though we've not necessarily put everything together yet, we're still winning almost every single game handily.
And you know what, dude? That's a good point. And honestly, that's a great segue into what Ryan Day has been doing on the recruiting throughout. Because, man, today, if you didn't know, was National Signing Day, and it was a dandy for Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, there are actually no surprises, good or bad, at least at this point. We kind of got everyone we thought we were going to have, which, depending upon which rankings you're looking at, we're either like number 2 or number 3, and we're really not that far behind number 1, which of course is Alabama. But we definitely got some key players in there, and I think the lead part of it is Kyle McCord, who is a 5-star quarterback from Pennsylvania, and he will be coming in. And from my understanding, Ryan Day is going to give him the chance to compete immediately with C.J. Stroud and Miller to give him a chance, Jack Miller, to give him a chance to even start. Running back, we got another dandy. We have a 5-star coming in at Travion Henderson, who, in my opinion, I think he's going to be special. Last 5-star running back I believe we got might have been Beanie Wells, but this kid, he's not overly big. I think he's like, maybe 6 foot and barely 200 pounds, but with our weightlifting program at Ohio State, like he's going to bulk up. And of course, we're getting just tons of 5-star wide receivers and key defensive players.
Can we give a shout out to Brian Hartline real quick, man? This guy he's a monster, dude. I don't know what he's selling. Dude, but I'm buying.
Yeah, he's like in the running for some sort of coaching award, and I think he's the only nominated or has a chance to win that is not an actual offensive or defensive coordinator. He's the only one on the list, and I think a lot of it has to do with what they're seeing he's doing with the wide receivers and what he's doing in the recruiting trail, which again worries me because I feel like we're going to lose him to another school for a coordinating position. Because I mean, where's he going to go to Ohio State? Like, he's probably not going to overtake Kevin Wilson as offensive coordinator, unless they make him co-coordinator and kind of keep him in waiting in case they get rid of Kevin Wilson. But
I think they should. I think he deserves it.
Yeah.
Obviously with all the COVID stuff going on, I know right now coaches are taking pay cuts. At the big schools. There was an article in it. I think that the Ohio State coaches took a voluntary pay cut here recently to try to help out the university a little bit. So I know things are tight right now, but I think when things turn back around, we should absolutely take care of him. He's obviously taking care of us.
Yeah. I think Brian Hartline needs to stay on staff somehow, and I don't know what it takes, but I would pay that guy. I would definitely pay him. Hey, so you definitely are up there in Columbus, and you like to go watch the high school games, even though you didn't really get much of a chance this year. But from Pickerington, Jack Sawyer, that was another big signee that we got. He's 5-star defensive end, and he's going to be sick. They're almost they're making comparisons like the Bosa brothers.
Absolutely. So I did get to catch a couple of his games on the local TV and also on Facebook Live. It was terrible because of COVID this year. And, me and my dad and everybody like to go catch a high school game a week, especially towards the playoffs. But it just didn't work out this year with the COVID. But everybody was Facebook Living everything, so I did get to see quite a bit of him. And, dude, he looks amazing. Yeah, I think he's going to be special. And you know what? It kind of makes me feel good because, you and I come from a high school that was very enriched in college football prospects.
Oh, yeah.
We've had people, we had Lance Moore that went to our high school, and we've had a lot of guys that went to
Andy
Toledo.
Andy Katzenmoyer,
Carter, Brandon Joe. Quite a bit of things. So it really warms my heart to see kids around the 270 belt here still getting to live the dream and go play for the Buckeyes.
Jalen Gill, even though he transferred, but he was a hell of a player for Westerville South. That was our high school. And even we even did really well with our DB recruiting, and we got several 4-star guys that they're comparing already to like Damon Arnett and Garyon Conley, and even Von Bell, just some athletes that kind of shore up that defensive backfield that I think is probably the weakest part of the team right now, but I think that's going to develop back. And then one that's personal favorite of mine is the linebacker coming in, Reed Carrico. They're already kind of seeing he might be like another James Laurinaitis kind of player. Real tough. He played both ways in high school. He also ran the ball, but he went to Ironton, which is just across the river from where I live in Ashland. And the high school, or the district I teach in, we play their high school all the time. I've seen this kid, and man, he's got an engine and a motor on him, and a drive and a competitiveness that he's going to be special. And the beauty is, I think at least half these recruits are early enrolling, so they'll be on campus in January.
It cannot go unnoticed, the kind of job that Ryan Day is doing, because I think it was kind of the question mark in a lot of people's minds. Everybody loves Ryan Day. Everybody loves his attitude and kind of his swagger and the way that he brings himself in. But you know what? Everybody had to have a little bit, even if you're 99% sure. There's always that 1% where you're like, man, can he really keep this thing going? And I think he really went out to prove a point this year and saying, yes, I can, and I will.
Right. This is his first full recruitment class, because last year's recruits that came in were kind of Urban's, and then they kind of confirmed saying, hey, Urban kind of tried to help him with recruiting, saying, listen, nothing's going to change with the program. It's still in good hands. This is Ryan Day's first attempt to try to get out of Urban's shadow a little bit and say, hey, listen, I'm going to bring these players in, and I'm going to win with my own recruits in the way that I do things. And we're having some of the best recruiting classes that we've ever had. And I think the biggest thing that I wouldn't say goes unnoticed, because it's pretty obvious, but we are recruiting so well outside of Ohio right now that we're pulling in. And the other thing too is our recruits are helping. If you get on Twitter, you'll watch our recruits that are actually helping the recruiting and trying to get these other big guys to come there as well.
Well, yeah, and you know what? If Ohio State's pulling number one quarterbacks, automatically they're going to pull number one receivers. Yeah. Guys want to catch the ball from the best quarterback.
Yeah, and plus, it never hurts for the brand name and for the fact that we continue to develop, pro-level talent at the NFL level. So let's get into this game this weekend.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting ready to say.
Yeah, let's get into the game this weekend. Big Ten championship game against Northwestern, and I'll be perfect. I want to hear what your opinion is on it first.
I got to be honest, dude. A wise man once told me, or actually a wise woman, I don't think you're ready for this jelly. And I think that's the story for Northwestern. Because I'm telling you what, like I was saying earlier, this is a revamped team. This is a reborn team, and they know what people are saying about them, and they've done nothing for the last couple weeks except read this crap. And if you don't think it's posted up in the locker room, you're wrong. These kids read. Every kid in America has a phone, and they're reading every article that includes their name in it. You can bet it. And I think they're going to come out this weekend. We even discussed doing prop bets this week, but we decided not to do prop bets. In the fact that I think Davis may align with me in this. I think we're absolutely going to throttle Northwestern.
Yeah, I think Northwestern, and I think they know it too. I think Northwestern at this point, the coach is probably looking at them saying, boys, let's just see if we can get everybody back on the bus to make it home. We don't want anyone getting severely injured. We don't want to leave anyone behind. Let's just make sure that we come out, we play hard, we feel proud of ourselves, and we get back on that bus, because Ohio State's 20-point favorite probably. And I think we're going to win the game by probably at least 30. We'll get into our score predictions here in a little bit, but the funny thing is that Northwestern doesn't have the greatest offense, and a lot of their games, they're not averaging a ton of points, but their defense, especially their passing defense, is only giving up on average 6.5 yards per attempt, which is stupid good for a passing defense. Ohio State, I think, averages close to 10, almost 11 yards per attempt. So you got to think too, the teams that Northwestern had played, how many of them were really good passing offenses? You might say maybe Wisconsin. Ultimately, I think of the selection size too and the way their defense is. I'd say they have a solid defense, and it's not like we're going to score on every play, but I don't see them doing much in our defense. And I see that over the entire span of a game, we're going to put up at least 40 plus. So I see this,
Well, give me a score, man. Don't leave me in suspense.
I'm feeling something along the lines of a 52-14.
Wow.
That's kind of where I'm at. That's
literally
like a 30.
was going to say 52-17.
Well, you're a copycat, and you also have learned that I've not lost a prop bet all year, so you're probably finally starting to listen to me.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I was already thinking it before you said it. They ain't no copycat about it.
Well, you have no proof that you were thinking that before you said it, so I have to assume that
You
you're
have no proof I
copying.
wasn't.
I don't have to prove it. I came out with my answer first. You're the one who has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
Either way, your argument would not hold in a court of law, so I'll just leave it there.
There's a lot that we do that wouldn't hold up in a court of law.
There's a lot that would end up putting us behind bars.
Probably.
Either way, we both think Northwestern's going to get it this weekend. We had an episode last week. We talked about everything that happened with the Big Ten championship game and how I felt about it and kind of where I was sitting. After I got a chance to process that, at the end of the day, we are playing football. We're playing for a Big Ten title and possibly playing for a national championship. And if you can't get excited about that, you're not a true Ohio State football fan. So Davis and I will be together this weekend, which we're pretty excited about.
Finally, we're finally going to do this other video episode we've been talking about, which you definitely need to tune in because Chad probably needs to start doing some push-ups before he has to pay up on this prop bet that he has lost from the Michigan State game.
It's not going to happen. I like beer and wings, and I'm going to keep on liking beer and wings. Okay, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah,
but
well,
I am a man of my word, so I will be doing. What is owed this weekend. Like
you're going to be catching up on several prop bets this weekend. I mean, I got dinner coming. I'm bringing the golf clubs not because we're playing, but because you're going to wash them. Like they'll be in the trunk of the car, and then I'll take them right on back.
Wash the clubs during halftime.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Hey, and remember, did you buy the Evian bottle water?
I did, although for some reason it's yellow tinted. I can't figure out why. But I will be living up to it this weekend. Like I said, we're excited to do the video podcast. We really enjoyed it, and you guys did too last time. It was one of our more popular podcasts. So stay tuned for that. And also, do not judge me for the shirt that I will be wearing on the podcast. That's all I'm going to say.
And my answer is, please judge him. Judge him harshly, because it is well deserved. You lose a prop bet to the magnitude he loses a prop bet in that game. He deserves what he has coming to him.
Listen, I feel like God's been telling me that for 30 years. Oh, man. Well, either way, like I said, we're excited for this weekend. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you check us out. And Davis, tell them where they can find us.
Yeah. Again, you can find us on YouTube. We post our podcasts on there. And then, of course, you can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and iTunes. And also, I just want to say both Chad and I really appreciate the support that we're starting to get. We got our fan page is growing on Facebook. If you haven't already, definitely make it over to Facebook and like the page, because we also put more information on there. And then we're also, starting to build some newer, bigger, and better things. So be on the lookout for some new stuff upcoming. But we appreciate the support. We hope you like what you hear. And as always, go Bucks. OH.